Oh yeah, five star LSU. I said they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up, hey. Back and back it on up, hey. Back and back it on up, hey. Back and back it on up, hey.
And now, season's over. Of course, we told him we wanted to have him back on, so we're glad to have him back on here tonight. And there's been a lot of pitchers that has transferred in. And, of course, we've given you our opinions about them. We've even had one on the show last week. Dylan Tibrock came on, and we discussed some things with him, asked him some questions. But we want to get a pitcher's perspective from Chris Demouy, who's obviously more intelligent when it comes to baseball things than we are, to give us maybe some inside thought, some perspective on some of these pitchers and what they bring, what they offer to the table. And just get his ideas on what Jay Johnson's been doing, because he's been doing a lot.
Yes, he definitely has been doing a lot.
Zach, tell me about some football recruiting.
So far, LSU, which the last time we were on, of course, we announced we
were live.
The commit. We were live when Jackson Howard committed, which was, of course, massive. But since then, you have landed Joshua Mickens, the 4-star edge rusher. You have landed Ashton Stamps, the 3-star defensive back. You've landed Darren Reed, the 4-star defensive lineman. You've landed. There's just so many. I got to go through all of them. Deshaun Womack, the 4-star defensive lineman. You also flipped Xavier Adkins from Missouri, the 3-star linebacker, and then of course
not a 3-star.
Not a
3-star.
And you landed 3-star corner Jeremiah Hughes as well. And Jalen Brown is announcing at 6 p.m. So we will definitely be here to recap that, as Jalen Brown,
maybe a little
obviously
news.
LSU's hat is on the table. A lot of confidence there.
It'd be a huge pickup.
5-star wide receiver out of Miami. You'd be plucking him straight from the Canes. So yeah, LSU recruiting has been
jumping.
It's been fireworks. That's what it's been.
So I mean, and we talked a little bit about that last episode. We talked about are we overreacting a little bit, and obviously the answer was a resounding yes. Like we overreacted a little bit. Now, could they be doing better in the state? Sure. Does it matter when you go out and you pluck 6 guys in 3 days? Not really. I mean, not really, especially when we talked about some of the guys who were in the class probably weren't ever coming to LSU because they weren't even considering LSU with the previous staff. And
correct.
You also got to think about the recruitment isn't over with yet with some of these guys. The whole overreaction began with the big time safety out of weight committed to I'm drawing a blank. Texas. Longhorns. Almost said A&M. But he committed to them, and it was meltdown. I mean, Brian Kelly, for so long we were saying Brian Kelly can't recruit, Brian Kelly can't or can recruit, and we've been preaching that. And everybody's like, oh no, can he recruit? And it was just hold on, guys. It's July. It's July. Take a chill pill. And then the commitment started flying in, and there's more expected. I mean, like Zach just mentioned, hats on the table for a big-time receiver tonight. And if you land him, he's the biggest of the class so far.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackson Howard, as of right now, is your top recruit in the class. If you land Jalen Brown, he's by far your top recruit. You also got to consider an in-state guy, Shelton Sampson. It seems to be an LSU lean right now. Lance Hurd, big-time offensive tackle, LSU lean right now. Tyree Adams, offensive tackle out at St. Augustine, I'm pretty sure. Also another in-state guy, big-time recruit, just crystal balled to LSU either today or yesterday. So, we're good, guys. It's everything's going to be all right. It's going to be okay.
I'm confident.
And, Zach, just to put a perspective on how big of a jump this month has been. At the start of the month of July, LSU was at 50 in the recruiting rankings. Mm-hmm. 50. As we currently sit, we are now in 12th place. You have jumped 38.
Yes.
38 spots in the recruiting rankings with these 7 commitments, including Jackson Howard.
I mean, a little bit of that is quantity, but it's definitely
absolutely.
It's definitely mostly quality.
People. I won't say people. I'll be specific. Some of these Notre Dame fans too. Okay, they were pointing and laughing for a long time at LSU because of obviously they're salty. Let's get to reality here. They're salty. Brian Kelly left, most winningest coach in their entire history. They're salty, and they were pointing and laughing because the new young Marcus Freeman's out recruiting the old fart Brian Kelly that left us. Here's some reality for the Notre Dame fans. It's July. And yes, you are the number one class as we sit in July. And you said some of that is quantity. Some of that, in fact, probably most of that is quantity for Notre Dame as well. As we sit right now, they have 19 commits compared to LSU's 12.
Yeah.
They have 7 more commits than LSU currently. So, yeah, you're going to be ranked higher when you have 7 more players worth of points added to your overall tally.
Correct.
So, pump the brakes a little bit. LSU just landed 7 and jumped 38 spots. You may be eating crow come September and November, right?
And LSU isn't done potentially today. And so you're at 12 right now. If you land a 5-star wide receiver,
You're probably be top 10.
Yeah.
So just for perspective, again, Notre Dame is one of those teams that are sitting in the top 10 because of quantity, right?
Yeah.
Point out a few others for those of you who were freaking out about LSU. Arkansas has the 7th ranked class in the country. Arkansas. 20 commits. 20.
Yeah.
You want to know how many are 4 stars? 6. You want to know how many are 5 stars? None. Do the math.
Yeah.
That leaves 14 guys, 14 players that are 3-star or lower.
Yeah.
Quantity. When you have that means you only have like 5 more spots left to offer when it comes to freshmen in the class. Yeah, they're going to have a higher class.
Of course.
Currently. You go to September. If we're sitting into September and they have 13 3-stars and 1 lower than that, and that's their 20 commits, they're not even scratching like top 15.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably in mid-20s. Arkansas. Baylor, 22 commits.
Jeez.
At the 9 spot.
Yeah, that's 10 more than LSU.
That's 10 more than LSU, and they're only 3 spots ahead.
Gosh.
18 3-stars. 18.
18?
18 of the 22 is 3-star. 0 5-star, 3 4-star. Look, we love you, Dave Aranda. But you're going to have to pick it up a little bit. Right now it looks good, but again, come November, it's not going to look
when all the
that
5-stars start committing.
Yeah, correct. Cincinnati is 1 spot ahead of LSU. 20 players. That's 8 more than LSU. 17 of their 20 are 3-stars.
Yeah.
Texas Tech is 2 spots behind LSU at 14. 23 commits. 0 5-stars, 2 4-stars, 17 3-stars. So that's 19. That's 4 guys that are below a 3-star rating.
Yeah.
So quantity at this time right now does play a big factor in where the recruiting rankings lie. And that's why, Zach, it don't matter right now. The recruiting rankings do not matter right now. Why? Because there's a whole lot of recruitment left to go. I mean, there's ton of recruiting left to do. You ain't even played a snap in this fall yet.
Yeah.
We ain't even got to fall camp. So, Tiger fans, LSU has 12. 9 of them are 4-star. 9. 3 of them are 3-stars. So, let's take a chill pill. We mentioned Shelton Sampson earlier. That's a big-time 5-star receiver. That's 1 5-star. If you land Jaylen Brown here in about 15 minutes, that's 2 5-star.
Yeah.
Zach, tell me, we discussed this off air. We've been talking, obviously, football recruiting is hot right now. It's popping.
Yeah.
Especially for LSU in the month of July. We were saying earlier, and we were kind of adding up some things in our mind. And, of course, this is just like shooting air. Like maybe if we land this guy, we were thinking like top 5 class. Who are some of those guys we were shooting?
I mean, obviously Jaylen Brown, Shelton Sampson,
right?
You know, those are the big names. I think those are probably the two biggest right now
Yes.
on the board.
Two biggest.
That seem like they're pretty hard commits to LSU.
Hard lanes, maybe, yeah.
So, and as you mentioned, when you went through all those lists, the majority of those teams, they had lower stars as their majority.
Yeah.
20-something commits. They've got 18 guys that are 3 stars. Well, if you look at LSU, flip that. You've got the majority of your guys are the higher star. Yeah. They're 9. 9 of them are 4-star, and then you have 3 that are 3-star. You're probably about to land a 5-star in Jaylen Brown. You're going to probably land Shelton Sampson, 5-star. Lance Hurd, Adams, 4 stars. Who else am I missing, Reagan? Basantis, 4 stars. I mean, you're going to land some dudes. To go back towards the concern, Reagan, I know a lot of people are freaked out because a lot of the top guys in the state have not committed to LSU, but 3 of the top guys in the state are quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And you want to get a quarterback. Yes, you want to get a I think you need a quarterback in every single recruiting class because quarterback is the most important position on the field.
Yep.
But right now you have Walker Howard who's in the wings, who's in the waiting.
Yep.
And I don't see a Arch Manning, Eli Holstein committing to LSU because they know that.
They don't want to wait behind that.
They don't want to wait.
And I think that's the same thing with Dante Moore.
If they let's say they commit. Let's say they commit this year and then they're there the next fall.
Yeah.
Right? You also have the possibility that Jaden or Garrett stays.
Yep.
So you're already waiting a year under them, and then you have to wait under Walker Howard, knowing his talent. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that these guys aren't going to commit.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have those again. I made a mention of this in the last episode. Teams are going to place specific priorities on specific position groups. And it has become very clear that in this recruiting class, Brian Kelly is doing the same thing.
Yep.
He is placing an emphasis and a priority on the defensive and offensive line. It's very clear. With the hats that are on the table, with the guys you've already got committed, with the guys you have coming that haven't committed yet, it's very clear that he has got those 2 position groups as priority over other position groups.
No doubt.
Because he wants to build the foundation for this program, and in doing that, he wants to have solid line play.
Of course.
And so, that's why it's not as huge of a deal if you lose Derek Williams. Now, if you lose Lance Hurd, it's more of a big deal.
That's going to hurt.
This recruiting class, if you lose Lance Hurd, than losing Derek Williams.
Yeah.
I know Derek Williams is the 5-star. I know he's the skill position player. But Lance Hurd is the biggest priority right now for Brian Kelly and the staff. And so that's why you see what is going on right now. And so, yeah, I think, Reagan, you talked about potentially where we would be landing. I think probably top 5 is probably a good spot for LSU to land. I think top 3 is pretty tough. You could do it though if maybe you flip a Derek Williams.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of time left in this recruiting cycle.
Yep.
But based on the guys that we know we already have, and based on the guys that we believe we're getting, I think top 5 is a comfortable landing spot that LSU can get to.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point, that was like the thing you could point to say this is why Brian Kelly's making this move. Exactly. Because we know that at Notre Dame, boy oh boy, offensive line was like his thing, right? He was pumping offensive linemen into the NFL. What has problem against like the line of scrimmage?
Yeah,
right. I mean, we had so many years. We had so much hope, high hope. I mean, 2015, we're going to the Bama game undefeated. Leonard Fournette is on a Heisman tear. Like, clear favorite. You march in against Alabama and get absolutely annihilated on the line of scrimmage. Leonard Fournette gets completely shut down. Why? Because your line of scrimmage was poor.
Yeah.
If Brian Kelly comes in and builds a foundation on both lines of scrimmage, now, right now, our defensive line is probably one of our strongest suits on the team, and we're just reloading that. Jamar Cain is reloading that, no question. If he comes in and he starts building a foundation, he brought in guys from the transfer portal, Miles Frazier, Tremont Shorts, of course, Will Campbell came in. And then you start pulling in guys like Chase Pasantis, Lance Hurd, Tyree Adams. You build a foundation on the offensive line, the scrimmage. And then you can add the pieces that Brian Kelly wasn't able to at Notre Dame, right? I think the most notable skill player I can name from maybe 2 skill players. Do you count quarterback as a skill player?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool.
Well, yeah. Chase
mind.
Claypool was the one I was thinking, and Ian Book.
Yeah.
That's it. But NFL is chock full of Notre Dame offensive linemen because of Brian Kelly's doing. Now he can haul in. Dude, if we go and land Jaylen Brown, Shelton Sampson, and then you also add Chase Pasantis, Tyree Adams, Lance Hurd, like in his first full cycle recruiting class, he's doing exactly why he came. That is the very reason he came here, and he's proven it.
Yeah.
If he goes and lands those guys, that would be huge. Here's my ideal class, Zach, and I'll is Demouy? Do we got Demouy in here?
Yeah, Chris is in
he's
in the waiting.
He's in the waiting. I knew we were kind of pushing time already for this segment, but my ideal class right now, what we've done already has been awesome. I would like to add Lance Hurd, Pasantis, Adams, Jaylen Brown, and Shelton Sampson. And then I would like to add maybe some more top-rated DBs, maybe a little bit higher rated. Now, I'm
Kylan Jackson out of Zachary.
I was about to say Kylan Jackson. I obviously don't sleep on Ashton Stamps and Jeremiah Hughes. You don't just go get those guys for no reason, right?
Yeah.
And I think Ashton Stamps that whole recruitment was a result of what he did at the camp. The recruiting rankings don't always get it right. So if you got Ashton Stamp coming to a camp and he's locking down some big-time receivers, then you offer that guy.
Yeah.
He's an in-state guy. You go get him. So you add those guys. If you flip Ricky Collins, I think like that after that, you just go add pieces. Like you just go get some depth, maybe a tight end, Galloway.
Yeah. Who's Cristobal to LSU?
Cristobal. Like this class, if you go get what I'm saying right now is if you land those 3 offensive linemen I've named, you land Brown, you land Shelton Sampson, you land Galloway, and by the way, is it West Weeks? Whit Weeks is committing tomorrow. Cristobal to LSU. Like this is a top 5 class. And Brian Kelly is getting the class that is reflecting exactly the reason he came here, if that's what happens. And I think that's massive. First full year, first full kind of recruiting. It technically isn't a full recruiting cycle.
Yeah, that's another thing the LSU fans forgetting. Like
it's not even a full cycle.
Brian Kelly hasn't even coached a game at LSU yet. Like when you
if he lands a top 5 class,
pump the brakes a little bit. The brakes a little bit. You're in a transition year, and every time that you're in a transition year, and this includes this past season.
Yep.
Every time you're in a transition year and the year after, you're going to take a hit in recruiting. But you landed the 6th ranked class in the country with your transfers this past year, and you have the ability to land a top 5 class this year in a transition year.
If you landed a top 10 class in a transition year, that's huge. If you go to a top 5, that's massive. It's huge. From the guys we listed off, if you land all of those, you're top 5 pushing top 3.
Yeah.
Like you may be top 5 as in you're in the 4th. So let's all take a chill pill. Let's trust Brian Kelly to do what he's doing. This recruiting staff, Jordan Arcent, Sherman Wilson. Who's the third guy? I'm drawing a blank on the third guy.
Corey Phillips.
Maybe. I know those three guys are always they're doing a great job. I think Brian Kelly is doing a fantastic job, and more exciting news to come. I mean, what time is it right now? 6 minutes. We may have a 5-star commit. So football recruiting is going well. I would say exceeding expectations if you want my opinion on it. So anyways, we've gone a little bit over, and Mr. Demouy is in the wings. We'll hit a few comments, Zach, and then we'll bring Mr. Demouy in to discuss some baseball. What do we got, Zach?
So Normal Guy says hashtag BK takeover. They've been calling it the Storm. I mean, Sherman Wilson, Jordan, they've all been calling it the Storm, and the Storm, it's not over yet.
It's making landfall.
Jerry Zimmerman says, "What's up?" Normal Guy says, "What's up?" Tiger Den Sports says the trenches will be built massively under Brian Kelly's leadership.
Love it. I want it.
That's what you need in order to win in the SEC.
I'm tired. For so many years, I'm sick of being bullied on the offensive line against Bama.
You were bullied against UCLA last year.
Manhandled.
BK takeover. Purdue took another QB commit, which is currently where Woodline QB Ricky Collins is committed to, correct? He could flip to LSU later this year.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Dante Moore's gone. Ricky Collins, I think, is slept on huge.
Yes.
Dude's a 4-star, like top 200 quarterback, and is honestly being overshadowed by Arch Manning. Like, he's in state. Go get him. Like, he looks to be like a very athletic, mobile quarterback, fits the bill. Get him.
Yeah.
Anyways. Any more comments?
That's all we got right now. We'll take a quick break, and then we will come back with Chris Demouy.
5-star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. 5-star Hero. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you. Here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
What's up, Demouy?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. How you been?
Doing good. Thanks for having me in, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us last minute.
Kind of last minute. We appreciate you joining in here, man.
Yeah, no problem. For sure. So, out of town a little bit, enjoying some time off. So, yeah. Always.
There you go.
Glad to hop in here with y'all. So, not a
Absolutely.
problem.
So, Chris, walk me before we get into the mass of what Jay Johnson has done so far in this offseason. Walk me through your thoughts of what transpired in Hattiesburg. We haven't had you on since before Hoover. What were your thoughts on the end of season?
Man, that feels like 6 months ago.
Forever.
Yeah.
After Hattiesburg, I just kind of checked out. I caught, when you do it, you pay attention to every pitch, just like y'all do. I did the same thing. You kind of check out the College World Series, but I think what you saw is guys just run out of gas, and you realized you were a starter short, and you kind of saw the bullpen. To me, I think the bullpen, just got tired at the end of the year, and you saw that in the SEC tournament a little bit, and then you just saw that again with guys, with their stuff, really. When you get tired, your mechanics go first, your legs go, and then your stuff is ultimately going to go. And, man, I can barely remember those 3 games. But, they had chances, to put them away, and the bullpen just couldn't get it done, and I think you just saw some guys fighting themselves at the end of the year. Hasty was really the last week and a half fighting himself. It felt like Raiselman was good for an inning. Then he'd come out the next inning and his velo would drop a lot. Gervais' mechanics look like he has, he's kind of got a little bit of a weird throwing motion anyway. But at the end of the year, I was just hoping he could throw a strike. He was strike ball, strike ball, strike ball.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot to put on those guys, and it just sucked the way it ended. But I tell you what, it kind of gives you a taste of what's to come. And if you're coming back, you don't want to have that feeling again. You never want to end somebody's got to lose the last game of the year, and somebody from the Advocate caught a picture, I think, of Hasty and Vittmeyer that made its way around Twitter, and I retweeted that. I don't think fans really appreciate or know that nobody in that dugout thinks they're going to lose. Right. They always think they're going to come back, but the end of the season is so abrupt, and the finality of it is so sudden that that happened with me and Doug Thompson. We just started balling at the end of 1998 because you don't think it's going to end, and all of a sudden it does, and you look around, you're like, what the hell just happened? You're like, it's over. I got to take off the jersey. I got to get a job, go to summer ball, whatever. And I just think you saw that was a really cool picture somebody got. Maybe Jacques Doucet got that picture, but
I think it was Jacques. Yeah.
I think it's just the
showing
beginning.
them motion.
I think, yeah. To wrap it up, I'll just quit talking. But I just think it's the beginning. And if you're a baseball fan, Jay Johnson was the absolute right hire, and he's going to be a dude, man. He's going to be a problem,
dude. So just to kind of give you my perspective on Jay Johnson, I feel like there's kind of like a generation of coaches that are starting to make their way out, right? And kind of started with Paul Maneri, honestly. And then, Mike Bianco, everybody thought he was on his way out and was going to retire after a struggled season. And then they caught lightning in a bottle, caught fire. And which we saw how good that team was when they came to Baton Rouge and what they could be. And they won it all. Maybe within the next few years, Mike Bianco, now that he has a ring, he decides to step aside. I don't know. Guys like Tim Corbin and Jay Johnson and guys like Tony Vitello seem like this young, ferocious. Oh, sorry, I just hit that table. Ferocious, in recruiting and tenacious. And I think the difference is one's a jerk and one's kind of a cool guy, genuine guy. So I think we got the better end of that deal. So when you said Jay Johnson was absolutely the right hire, I couldn't agree more. I think he's a young guy who has a brilliant mind, who is ready to get to Omaha and win now, right now. And with the roster that we have returning, not even with what we had, out of the transfer portal, it was all right, we need to win national championship next year, because after this, not that we're going to fall off the face of the earth, but you're losing Dylan Cruz and Trey Morgan next year. You want to get those guys to Omaha because they haven't been to Omaha yet, right? So Jay Johnson in this absolute tear has not only the number one class in high school, has the number one class out of the transfer portal. Of course, obviously, like you mentioned there in Hattiesburg, absolutely guys ran out of gas. We were short a few, probably 1-2 starters. And, our bullpen was so strong, but you can only put so much on them, right? And expect so much of them for so long. And I think you saying they just ran out of gas was exactly what happened. But now he goes out and adds Dylan Tabrock, which we'll see, with the draft, how that goes. Christian Little, Thatcher Hurd. What does that do, Demouy, from a pitcher's perspective, with the roster that we have before we even discuss the guys he's added in the field, to add DeBrake, to add Little, to add Hurd, who are all big-time guys out of the portal. What does that do for the expectations of LSU now from a pitching standpoint?
I think so. I may be different than y'all and other Tiger fans, to where with some of these guys, the portal's a little bit different. Well, I think the recruiting class, I like to hit the brakes and take a step back, especially in baseball. But I think with Tabrock, that guy, because I was doing some research when y'all asked me to come on, so I wanted to make sure I had, kind of looked at some things. To me, he's established, right? He's going to come in as a grad student if he makes it here, if he gets through the draft. Yeah, he's tough, though. If he has 1 more year left, you just wonder about his leverage, and if they throw some money at him. I've watched some clips on Twitter, just probably like a lot of people have. Two-time Big East Pitcher of the Year. I don't think you have to say more than that. Obviously, the competition is going to be a step up.
Correct.
But I think you can't dump on the fact that he's been through the fires in the Big East. He's been the dude at Creighton for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He's thrown a lot of innings. He's got a lot of punch outs. I've seen
It was like 93 innings, 115 strikeouts this year.
Yeah, and his
Just
velocity, it
overlooked
looks like he's anywhere from 92 to 94, can maybe touch 96. And I was kind of reading, I was trying to find maybe like a draft prospectus on him. And I think I found something from last year when they talked about him and just how his slider, and I guess his, with all the data they have now on spin rates, but his slider and his spin rate is phenomenal. And his slider is like a wipeout slider. So I think with that guy, so he's established, right? He's going to come in. He's not going to be scared of the moment. He wants to come to LSU for an obvious reason, right? He wants to test himself on a big stage in the best conference in the country. And I think Kristen Little, he's been through the SEC. He just may need a change of scenery. And I think the biggest thing with Little is potential. And he just needs the right pitching coach or the right change of scenery to maybe put some faith in him or to reinstill some confidence. And that's probably all he needs to take off. So you're looking at those two guys, and you hate to say plug and play. I don't really like to use that term because they still got to get on campus and prove themselves throughout the fall.
No doubt.
But you feel confident in the stuff, and I think with Little, it's probably a little bit of a confidence thing because he probably has the stuff, right? Because he started against LSU on that Saturday game, and LSU got him out of there, I think, after. And the stuff wasn't bad. He just wasn't in the zone. He wasn't really even close to the zone.
Yeah.
And then with Hurd, to me, that's just a huge question mark. Because, I mean, in my research, I don't know how this guy makes it to campus. Y'all tell me. Coming out of high school, he was the #1 pitcher in California, the number 9 right-handed pitcher in the country, and the number 32 player in the country. And that guy made it to campus.
Yeah.
And
COVID.
before he got and it's I don't know what his injury status is. I know he had like a stress fracture in his spine or his back.
Yeah.
To me, that's a question mark, just like Javen Coleman's a question mark coming off Tommy John. So, but I'm excited for Floyd and Taylor next year.
Absolutely.
We don't have to get into the return. But I think from a pitching standpoint, transfer portal, I think you have some guys with potential and established pedigree to where you can bolster your rotation right off the bat, assuming they continue to progress and do what they've done the past couple of years. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Demouy, breaking news. If I have a button, I hit it. 5-star wide receiver, Zach. I'll let you tell it because Zach, I've been asking the questions to me because Zach's been over here watching the commitment and making the post about it.
Yeah. 5-star wide receiver, Jalen Brown, commits to LSU. The first 5-star in the class.
Huge.
It's massive for LSU. And you pluck him from
right out of Miami,
the state of Florida, right out of Miami. He was one of the biggest targets for Miami. I don't care what Miami fans say right now. They're just salty that they just lost.
They're going backtrack.
That they just lost him to LSU. So really big get for the Tigers.
Yeah, no doubt. Huge.
There you go.
We were just discussing that with football. You got him. You got an in-state guy, Shelton Sampson, 2 5-star receivers right there.
Yeah.
This is why Brian Kelly came. This is why he came. Because he can get guys like that.
My son played with Sampson. My son was a senior and Sampson was a sophomore, so he was just
really
starting.
Wow.
Just starting to blow up. So he doesn't even look like he's fast, but he doesn't. He's one of those kids that doesn't look like he's running. One of those kids.
He's just gliding.
It's just smooth.
Yeah, and Catholic's got a great weight program, but when he gets in a college weight program and probably gets on a good meal plan, he's already 6'4", 6'5". So probably a couple things he can clean up, but he's only. From an athleticism standpoint, and his ball skills, I think, are really good. From a go get the ball at the high point. He can do that with anybody. So the sky's the limit for him. Hopefully they can keep him home.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, look, we know we got you here for baseball, and we're gonna keep you here for baseball. But real quick,
okay.
Obviously, you're a huge LSU fan. LSU played at LSU baseball. So, what have you seen from Brian Kelly and the recruiting front here just recently with LSU football? And what's your expectations? Again, we know you're baseball, but obviously you root for the Tigers. So
yeah, I think to me that hire came out, and I think he's doing what he's supposed to do. I like the way he goes about his business. He obviously has an established process in place. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to build and run a program.
mm-hmm.
And I'd be lying if I didn't say I would like some stability right now and a guy with pedigree, as opposed to, I mean, 2019 was great, but whatever happened the past couple of years was a little bit of a mess. But I think he's doing,
mm-hmm.
he seems to be doing a little bit what Jay Johnson is doing. It looks like, to where,
no kidding.
And I haven't paid attention to much football recruiting as of late. I kind of get into it a little more during the fall. But you're going to plug roster needs first, and then then they're going to add youth and depth. And they've got a ton of transfers. Football got a ton of established transfers. I just think about the DB side. All of those two kids from Arkansas, the kids from UL, the kids from Oklahoma State. Yep. You get proven guys that have been there. And then you add depth from a young guys, and then the stars like y'all talked about. I heard y'all earlier. The recruiting services and the stars aren't always right, but then the stars they're gonna start falling. Once they see people start committing, and I think after this year, I think they're gonna be better than people think they are. So I think they got to get that Florida State win. God, that would be
yeah. Got to get off the right foot.
It feels like if they're able to get that first win against Florida State, then a lot more dominoes will fall for them.
Yeah.
And
I just kind of trust in him and whatever his process is.
Correct.
So he's been there, done that. What were you going to say, Reagan? Sorry about that.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. Like, the dude's the winningest active coach in college football. Right. And whatever, Notre Dame fans can say what they want, but Notre Dame hasn't won a championship in 34 years with 5 different coaches. Like, there's a reason. It's not Brian Kelly's fault he didn't win a national championship there. It's hard to pull recruits like Jaylen Brown, a 5-star receiver, up to South Bend, Indiana. It's just not the same. SEC West prowess. LSU's won 3 national titles with 3 different coaches in this century. So, 100% why he is here to do things like this. He's here to finish his career with a national championship. And that's my whole thing is you don't make this move to just come here and do the same thing. He's making this move because he's 60 years old and he wants to win a national championship before he retires.
Correct.
And that's what I'm most excited about is there's that drive to get over the hump.
Even at his age.
Correct.
I think as a football fan too, you want to see him get back to the promised land, but you want to see some sustainability, right? You want to see
consistency.
Exactly right. To where year over year you're close or in the conversation. And I think if you parlay that into baseball, that's just what LSU baseball fans want to see too. And I think that's the cool thing about Jay Johnson is I think he embraces the history of the program a little more than the previous coach. In my opinion, he doesn't run from the history of the program, but he doesn't let it define him. He knows expectations, but the game has changed tremendously since when I was there. And anybody who doesn't see that is crazy. It's just completely different. The players are different. The players are better in a sense. They've been from such a young age. So I think Jay Johnson understands that. And I think his expectations are bigger than the program's expectations. But he realizes, too, is that, when you look at the SEC West, goodness gracious. It is unbelievable with the coaches and the talent. And Arkansas and A&M came out of nowhere. And even Auburn, who would have expected that? And then, obviously, Ole Miss and then State, they had a down year. But you forget they're defending national champions. So it is, if he doesn't get off his butt,
it's like minor ball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It feels like it's almost like a minor league within the college baseball, the SEC West. Like, just pumps out so much talent, and it's ridiculous. So, Chris, we got to talk about the new hire. Jay Johnson has completed his staff. Josh Jordan is now the recruiting coordinator for the LSU Tigers. I feel like this is as close to like Dan Fitzgerald. Like it's like you're getting the same guy. Dan Fitzgerald is a young coach who was at Dallas Baptist, who was excited to take a bigger role at LSU, and he was an elite recruiter at Dallas Baptist. Of course, we've seen Dallas Baptist like make trips to Omaha.
Yeah.
I mean, so Dan Fitzgerald came from Dallas Baptist, taking a role at LSU to. I mean, honestly, he's a coach, right? He wants to keep making the steps of the ladder when it comes to his career. And LSU was a step. And then, of course, now when you hire young guys who are tenacious and ready to roll, and they're good at what they do, they're going to get hired. And we saw that with Jason Kelly and with Dan Fitzgerald. And I think Josh Jordan is that same type. So he's an elite recruiter. No skin off of Coach Pollard over at Duke. I think he's a great coach. But from all I have looked at, Josh Jordan is like the architect behind pulling guys into Duke and making them into the program that they are. Like, I've read things, people saying like Duke would not be where they were at if it wasn't for Josh Jordan. They won 2021. They won the ACC tournament, and because they were bringing talent in to compete within the ACC with teams like Florida State and Clemson and NC State. Duke went out there and won the ACC tournament in 2021, and Josh Jordan was the 2018 Assistant Coach of the Year. So another great hire for Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson, obviously, as we know, is an elite recruiter, and he's proven that already. And then you pair Josh Jordan alongside him, another elite recruiter. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that needs to be said about Josh Jordan. Looking forward to what he does. I think the reality is Josh Jordan could very well do what Dan Fitzgerald did this past year and be gone. Like, Josh Jordan was considered for the Northwestern head coaching job like last year. So now that he makes this move to LSU, recruiting coordinator, I wouldn't be surprised if after next season we have the same result as we did with Dan Fitzgerald. Obviously, we want him to stick around, and he has been known to stick around. He before Duke, he was at Appalachian State 6 years. He's been at Duke 10 years since. Okay. So maybe he sticks around, but I wouldn't be surprised if, after this kind of a move, if we do well. If LSU, by all estimations and predictions, of course, they are very early, are saying, LSU's going to be the team to beat next year. Omaha expectations, if that comes to fruition, obviously you're going to see staff turnover.
Yeah.
But this is who I want to talk about with Demouy specifically.
Right. Okay.
Do you have any comments on Josh Jordan?
I think you pretty much summed it up. I didn't do as much research as y'all did, but I like the fact that he's from the East Coast. He's kind of been over there, so it gives you another pipeline into the Carolinas and Georgia. And look, I don't know how. I'm sure it was probably challenging to get some kids into Duke potentially, just with regards to their academic standards as well. And he's been in a big time conference. The ACC was very deep, very good this year and he knows what he's going up. And that's the thing, when you come to LSU, you know what you're getting into. And I would imagine the assistant coach job at LSU is probably going to be a better role for him than Northwestern State head coaching job up in the Big Ten. I've been to that campus. I mean, when I say it sits on Lake Michigan, their football practice, they have a gorgeous indoor football practice facility, but it's 10 yards from Lake Michigan. So I can't imagine it's easy to play baseball up there and to recruit baseball kids up there and in the Big Ten. So I would imagine he does good here for a couple of years, and he's probably able to ride his ticket, to some Group of 5 programs in the South. Yeah. But it's one of those things, you trust in Brian Kelly, you trust in Jay Johnson. I think it's so tough in baseball. There's so many Division I baseball teams, and you don't know guys' backgrounds. From a fan's perspective, a lot of times you just have to trust the coach is making the right hire. And like y'all said, DBU's been a program that's been, a lot of people may not know it, but they're in Dallas, obviously, but they don't have football, so it's a baseball heavy program, and they've done
Correct.
things the right way for probably 10 to 15 years, flying under the radar to most. But if you're a hardcore baseball fan in college, DBU's been really, really good for a long time. So, yeah, Jay Johnson thinks this guy's the right guy, and this guy's going to get after on the recruiting trail. Then have at it, So I'm all for it.
So Demouy, obviously, we've talked about Josh, but we also want to ask you about Wes Johnson. Obviously with him being a pitching coach, you being a former LSU pitcher, how massive was it for LSU to go and get a guy who was in the exact same position at an MLB squad, and an MLB squad that weren't they first?
One in the
First,
they
yeah,
were
I think they were
with the
first.
NL Central.
They were first in NL Central. So how massive is it for LSU to land Wes Johnson?
That is, I know if I was a pitcher on that staff and I'm coming back to LSU, I'm pumped. I can't wait to sit down and talk to this guy to say, how can you help me get better and what does it take? And I'm going to take in as much information and ask this guy as many questions as possible. And on the flip side, if I'm a recruit, they may not know who he was, obviously, but once you hear a guy from the pitching coach for the Twins just left in the middle of the season, is coming to LSU. I mean, the thing I liked about it is that SEC experience checks that box. Been to the College World Series, checks that box. It seems like everything I read, he develops pitchers. And the one thing that I kept reading is that he really he increases velocity, which is always a good thing. As a pitcher, I never knew anybody that was friends of mine that wanted to throw slower. So obviously, and I kind of watched a little YouTube when he was mic'd up at Arkansas one game, and a lot of he seems a lot. I mean, I think most pitching coaches do this, but he really hones in on whatever the pitcher's strengths are, and he's going to amplify those strengths as opposed to that was always a thing in pitching. Do you want to pitch to your strength or pitch to the hitter's weaknesses? And I think it's a little bit of both, but sometimes pitchers get away from pitching to their strength, and so he seems like he does that. And he has a really good relationship with his pitchers, and you even heard some of his big league guys echo that as well. So, I mean, Arkansas fans can say what they want, but I'm sure they're a little bit. But I mean, just to, I don't know, it's pretty unprecedented move, and for Jay Johnson, I mean Jay Johnson to pull that off. I mean, that guy
incredible.
He ain't playing around.
Whatever he's saying on the phone or face to face, that's a heck of a sales pitch. So. But if I'm a pitcher on that staff, if I'm Christian Little, I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Well, like also to move, I just now thought about this, but you now have a former MLB pitcher that is going to come on the staff and try and convince guys like Thatcher Hurd and Dylan Tabrate, hey, don't go to the MLB right now. That's I mean, it seems like ironic, but I mean, it would make sense that they would do that.
Do to get yourself paid even more. Hey, I know what I'm talking about. I just came from the
stay
big
here
leagues.
one more year.
Stay here and let me teach you.
Stay here one more year and let me get you paid even more.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's everybody on that staff. That's their ultimate goal. I mean, unless something happens along the way in your career and things don't pan out how you want, but. Everybody wants a chance to try to pitch in the big leagues or at least get drafted to get a shot. And that guy has that type of experience. For him to go from Arkansas to the Twins and then vice versa, and he's sitting there, dealing with major league pitchers day in, day out basis for several years. I mean, how can you help me get there? What do I need to work on? And I'll do it. So that is the ultimate stamp of credibility right there. So very impressive.
Chris, we've asked you about the pitching, and more pitching, right? I want to ask about the offense. Now, obviously, we have you on here. You're a pitcher. You can give us a better perspective for the pitching staff. But Jay Johnson, man, we're losing Cade Doty most likely. You're losing Jacob Berry, right? That's a lot of home runs you're losing.
Yeah.
But Jay Johnson goes out and gets Tommy Tanks.
Right.
I mean, all-American freshman, probably the best freshman in the country. It breaks the NCAA record for home runs, 27 home runs.
Wild.
He goes and gets Jack Pineda, shortstop out of Baylor, batting over 300. Carter Young, sorry, I was drawing a blank. Carter Young, shortstop, another guy from Vanderbilt, along with Christian Little. The bat isn't quite there, but of course our defense was a struggle this past season, as you know. And he's an elite defender. And of course, Jordan Thompson's returning, who, by the way, is absolutely killing it out in Cape Cod.
Yes.
At the offense, at the plate. And I believe, supposedly, from what I've heard, Jordan Thompson battled an injury that was throughout the season spoken of, and maybe some of that was the issue of his kicking balls around for whatever reason this season at a rate none of us liked to see. But I still think his elite defensive play from the year before is still within him, obviously. But now you got 3 shortstops you can plug in at your infield. 3 guys who have started, 2 of them who started in the SEC. All 3 of them have started at Power 5 programs at shortstop.
Yep.
The captain of the field can plug it in at all 3 spots. And you bring Tommy Tanks in, who adds 27 home runs to your lineup. Absolutely killed it this year, did Jay Johnson in the portal. What does that mean for LSU's lineup coming in the next season? And then, of course, you add the arms. Give us your expectation then also for next season with that.
You're way too early expectations.
Way too early. Give us your expectations and predict.
I think the biggest shocker to me was Tommy Tanks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Reading Twitter and whatnot, it seemed like it was Florida State move, and then that to me just it was like 2 days, right? It was Tanks and then Little, and then I tweeted something out. I think Kendall Rogers responded that Christian, somebody else was getting ready to drop, and Young popped from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I saw that.
I had heard actually kind of towards the end of the year from a friend of mine who's close to the program that Josh Day was going to enter the portal, and LSU was really, and he has entered the portal, and maybe he goes to Ole Miss or Arkansas or wherever it is. But I saw.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, well, I would imagine he's going to probably stay somewhere in the SEC potentially. But that guy's a stud. But to get Tanks and just what he did, and then you see him coming into Alec Box Stadium, that just provides more. If you think about it, that provides more protection for Cruz. And I think Dugas is going to come back. I think Joe Bear is going to come back. I kind of wrote down some things. I think those 2 guys are definitely going to come back. I think it would do them a world of good to come back. I don't know where Gavin, if he's going to get drafted, if he is, or if he isn't going to get drafted. So Tanks just kind of lengthens that lineup, right? To me, it's all about, you never want to have a lineup at LSU where 7, 8, 9 are designated out. They're outs. They don't provide. And I think that's what that does. I mean, however you structure the lineup, however Johnson wants to do it, that's a huge asterisk right there on the scouting report. And Pearson's just going to get better. I mean, that was the tip of the iceberg for him.
No doubt.
And then to me, Pineda is he's almost like a flex guy. He's a utility guy. I know he started 54 games this year for Baylor at short. I see him as a leadoff, maybe 2-hole, or even you put him at the 9-hole to where he flips the lineup over, because he looks like he does a really good job of getting on base. And I think you can flip him at short and second. He has played second in his career. So I think the flexibility and the versatility is good. And Young, he struggled this year. And obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of his career. I know in 2021 he hit 250, but he led Vanderbilt in home runs with 16.
Correct.
But he strikes out a lot. And I think maybe in 2021 he had like 88 strikeouts, if I remember correctly, and like 44 walks. I mean, that's a lot of strikeouts in both years. So, but once again, he provides flexibility. And once again, like we talked about earlier with some pitchers and going back to even football, you get established guys that have played at big-time programs, that have had success at big-time programs. So,
correct.
Pineda's been a 2-year starter at Baylor. Obviously, Young's played at Vanderbilt, and those expectations and the pedigree of that program. And then you have Tommy Tanks. And he's only going to get better, I think, when you surround him with guys like Cruz and Morgan that can show him the lay of land of LSU. And then, I mean, that guy's just going to bust it, because even though he's had success, he's going to be new. So he still wants to prove his worth to Thompson, Cruz and Morgan, who run LSU, right? So he's still going to be like,
No
I had
doubt.
a great year, but I'm going to show you, like, I'm going to help y'all out. So he's going to work just as hard as those guys. So, I mean, I think the lineup, I don't know. I do have some questions though. What do you do with Tanks? I heard people say he's played some third base, so obviously Johnson's going to have to sort some things out. I mean, look.
Well, hey, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but Trey Morgan's been in left field during summer ball.
He did
for Team USA. He's been playing left.
Yeah.
Yes,
he did play first some,
yeah.
but he was also shown in the outfield some as well, which has been a discussion because supposedly Tanks does want to play a position and not just be a DH. So some people were saying, do you put him at first and give Morgan a kind of a, hey, I'm a versatile player and stick him in the outfield? But then the question is, if Dugas comes back, what do you do with Dugas?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah,
they're going to have to work through that. I love Morgan at first just because of how many errors he saves, but anyways.
I can only imagine that after what we've seen from Jay Johnson, we've talked about his recruiting prowess, we've talked about the coaches that he's hired. I can only imagine that he had these talks with Trey Morgan via text message, via phone call, or before he left in an exit interview and says, look, I'm going to try and get Tommy Tanks.
Yep.
This because it's going to make us better. And I don't know Trey Morgan. Those talks had to have happened. They had to happen with
no doubt
Tommy as well. So I'm sure all bases have been covered. I'm sure Gavin Dugas knows where he stands after his exit interview. All those guys know where they stand. I mean, they have to. So, I mean, I think from a lineup standpoint, it's going to be frightening. I look, and so I looked at Jay Johnson. I want to be prepared for y'all for this right here. So I looked at Jay Johnson in Arizona, and I was trying to figure out, LSU this year, so they hit like 114 home runs. They did strike out. So LSU's a team struck out 200 more times than they walked this year, and we all know they didn't steal any bases, right? And they hit like I got it right here. They hit 289 as a team. So I looked at Arizona because I'm trying to think, because I heard Jay Johnson say throughout the year, obviously pitching's a focus, but he seemed like he wanted a little more variability in the lineup. And I'm not saying they're going to be like Kentucky or Oklahoma and they're going to steal 120 bags, but it seemed like he wanted to do a little more with the lineup instead of being so station.
Yeah.
But I looked at Arizona. I mean, he had take COVID out of it, but his last 2 years, so 19 and 21 in Arizona, those teams hit 325.
Good grief.
Just disgusting. LSU hit 120 doubles this year. In his 6 years at Arizona, that is the second lowest total in terms of doubles that they've ever hit. Now, it's a different ballpark, right?
Yeah.
They had a lot of doubles, a lot of triples over there.
Yeah.
Most of the runs they hit were 70. But you saw kind of a progression to where he was able to build a program in 19 and 2021. I mean, they hit a ton of doubles.
Yeah.
Home run numbers started to pick up. And you did see early in his tenure at Arizona, they actually would strike out only like 70 or 80 times less than they walked. But you saw a greater divergence the longer he was there because I think he was building up kind of more swing and miss, but more power at the same time.
Yeah.
So my point is, I think with the lineup, you add Pineda, you add Young, so they're both athletic. They can do a little bit of everything. They both run a little bit. But I think, one, they're still going to hit doubles and they're still going to hit home runs. But I think he would probably like to see the strikeout numbers come down and maybe a little more action on the base paths. Later in the year, I think
LSU fans would love to see that.
Yeah, it's I think maybe by necessity later in the year, like in Vanderbilt and then the regional, super regionals, you saw a couple of more hit and runs, more bunting, probably because they had to. But I think he would just like to add some more versatility, to put a little more pressure on people. But I think he knows in the SEC and in Alec Box in that ballpark, he has to have guys that hit home runs, bottom line.
No doubt.
I think he's going to – and then my prediction I think they get to Omaha next year, and then as y'all know, when you get to Omaha, all bets are off. Nobody knows. Yeah. But I think they get there. I think they host a super regional next year, and I think they get there. But with the caveat, if some of these guys, Coleman coming off injury, Hurd coming off injury, and how does some of these other guys? How does Blake Money bounce back?
Yeah.
What kind of role? I think Grant Taylor could be a huge piece next year.
I agree.
And freshmen, I think they're short an arm or two in the bullpen. If Hasty stays in the transfer portal, and I don't know if y'all have any update on that or any inside scoop, but if Hasty
As far as I know,
stays,
he's still in the portal.
I think if they lose him, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because their bullpen is thin. If Raiselman and Gervais, if those two guys both go, their bullpen is really thin.
It's really thin. Yeah.
I think if you get Gervais back and you lose Haste, it's not uncommon now for freshmen to step up. We've seen it all across the country.
Yeah.
I would love to have one more proven arm at the back end of the bullpen. I don't know if there's one out there in the portal or whatnot, but they may be a little light in the bullpen moving forward. So
yeah.
I don't know what y'all's thoughts or what I said on. I always like to get y'all's opinion, but that's just kind of how I'm thinking about things moving forward.
Well, for me, Chris, I agree, and I don't necessarily think that they're done with the transfer portal. I mean, you've got a lot of arms with the recruiting class that may or may not be coming in, depending on if they get drafted. But depending on who you're able to get on campus, I don't think they're done with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
By any means. I think they very likely could hit the transfer portal for some lefties and relievers. That's yet to be seen. But I mean, again, as we've said with BK and as we've said with Jay Johnson before, I have full confidence because it has become very evident to me, and I think other LSU fans, that Jay Johnson, he's going for a natty next year. I mean, you go for a national championship every year, but it really feels like with what he has done this offseason and what they did in recruiting, I mean, he's like, we're going all out. We're going all out. So I expect them to put it together, whether it be just – and I think maybe he waits a little bit.
You got to wait the draft.
You got to wait to see what happens with the draft and get your feedback from those guys. And then based on that, you either say, okay, we're good. We got the guys that we wanted, or okay, we lost a couple guys to draft. Let's go hit the transfer portal.
That's exactly right. And that's Demouy, you were on the right track. And that's what I was going to say is right now, like it was like he addressed our issues immediately, right?
Yeah.
Like we had a problem with defense. Okay. Pineda, Carter, Young. We had an issue with starting pitchers to break Christian Little, and Hurd.
We're
losing home runs. Yeah. Tommy Tanks, right? So he addressed the immediate issues. Now, what's up in the air is exactly what you said. Is Gervais coming back? Is Raiselman coming back? Like your bullpen is what's up in the air when it comes to the draft. And so I think 100% Jay Johnson's about to watch the draft, see what happens, evaluate, and then we'll see more action happen. So that's why I think there's kind of been this like immediate burst of exactly what we needed to get. And then now we're in the in-between phase with the draft.
Yeah.
Who's going to go in the class, who's going to go on the current roster, and then
who's going to go from your transfers.
Correct. And then, of course, like you said, Hasty, and then he's going to evaluate and take care of business, like 100%. So
he's going to wait, and when everything's set in stone, I think he's going to fill those holes that are still needing to be filled.
Like if Gervais and Raiselman go, like fully expect the portal to be hit for some relievers. So we'll see though. But Demouy, we've run over a little bit. We appreciate all your perspective and your analytics. We appreciate you hopping on here kind of last minute, but we love talking baseball, obviously, and of course getting your look on things with the way things have gone in this offseason. Everybody's excited and the expectations have just accelerated. So appreciate you hopping on, Demouy. We're going to hit a quick break, guys, and then we will wrap it up after this.
Make sure you go follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Tigers Avenue, for daily updates on the show and all things LSU sports. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click off and hit that subscribe button at Tigers Avenue. We broadcast all of our shows live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Man, Zach, what a show. What a show.
I always love having
That's
Chris on.
awesome.
We've only had him twice, but I
Chris-
mean,
Yeah, Chris
we're
brings a
gonna
lot.
we're gonna keep bringing him on
absolutely
as much as he wants to come on
Hey, we should have mentioned it while he was on here, but go support his podcast.
for sure.
70 feet 6 inches,
60
60
at
feet.
60 feet 6 inches,
60 feet,
6-inch LSU pod on Twitter,
Absolutely, always
and then
a great time.
and all the podcasts.
Always a
platforms.
great time having him on. Go check out his podcast. Go support him. We love having him on. Dude, he's an LSU national champion pitcher.
Yeah.
It's a blast having him on. And also 5-star wide receiver Jalen Brown commits while we're on the show. And we were talking about recruiting. Of course, we were pointing to him as well. We kind of had some insight on that and kind of figured he was leaning LSU. It falls LSU's way. So Brian Kelly continues to take over and do a fantastic job. It's been a great show, guys. Thanks for coming in. I know we didn't get to as many comments as we wanted to because there was a lot to talk about and a lot to get to. But next time we will 100% get to your comments. We'll probably do a Tell Me TA so we can get y'all more involved in next episode. Appreciate you joining in and listening. We'll catch you next time in the Tigers Avenue. 5-star Hero, take us out. Peace.
Who that 5-star? Who that 5-star? And the LSU Tigers, LSU Tigers.